NWA back into the spotlight.
I was thinking that it might be a good idea if you and I formed an alliance.
Let's get ready to rumble! Welcome to the greatest wrestling program in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? Stop what you're doing and listen.
It's the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin, Frazier, DKM, and J Cal.
Welcome. This is the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news, for information, for the National Wrestling Alliance and the United Wrestling Network. My name is J Cal, and these two gentlemen are both my friends, my confidants, but also my podcasting partners. You got DKM and the modern day hero, Kevin Lee Frazier. He's a former NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, don't you know? And we're here to talk about NWA Power. In fact, we're here to recap, retcon, review, and just all in all talk about the latest episode of NWA Power, which was Season 6, Episode 6. And, gentlemen, how are you?
Living the dream out here, baby, in Paradise Land.
Mr. Mercer, how are you, sir?
Oh, if I was any better, you'd think I was lying.
Man, but you're out in the motherland, man. You're in the great nation of Texas. Like,
I have barbecue for lunch, so you can't get much better than that.
Ooh, yeah, you're not going to find any barbecue like that anywhere, but maybe Memphis, Tennessee might be the only place.
Your boy J Cal might be going to Memphis, Tennessee in 2022.
Better get some ribs and listen to some. Better get some ribs, and you better listen to some jazz and blues music while you're out there.
We'll also
dry ribs.
I'm gonna make a week out of it. Probably go to Memphis. Probably go to Nashville. Check out Championship Wrestling from Memphis. Go listen to Tennessee whiskey at some random dive bar out there in Nashville, and live the good life. You know what I mean?
Totally do. And you can always on my intro, you could throw out debated NWA national champion, because it's debatable that I actually held that belt.
Well, I mean, you literally held the title. There's no argument there. We have the photos. Next time we'll bring it up and we'll put it in the intro. We'll throw it out there.
Right.
With all that being said, too, our pal Jaden over there with the dog, Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, they're having a show coming up at the end of the month, October 30th.
Ooh, that's a place I'm actually familiar with, considering I did wrestle for Jaden up in New Jersey.
Well, you wrestled for Lawrence Cerconi, and remember, Jaden's just the guy that gets to talk on the podcast. But wishing all of our pals out there in New Jersey the best of luck on the show that's coming up on October the 30th. And we're just kind of stalling, trying to get you guys in here, giving you a little bit of time to get situated, get your diet tab and your Funyuns, and let's get to town on this.
Diet tab.
They might be shocked, Jay, that we're like on time on a regular basis now.
Well, that's why I'm like stalling here, because we've got 5 people in the chat, and I think 3 of them are us. So DKM with the 10 pounds of Texas championship right there.
Is that new?
It's new to me. This is based.
When'd you get it?
Picked it up earlier this week from a guy I knew.
Uh-oh, Jay. Uh-oh, we're pulling out. We're belt showing here. What do we got there? The British Commonwealth. Wow, you guys.
The significance of that title in California, which sounds odd because California was never really a part of the British Empire, is the fact of the matter that Fergal Devitt, a.k.a. Finn Balor, Carl the Machine Gun Anderson, Alex Kozlov, all had that title and defenses out here in Southern California. So this belt does carry some significance for us Southern California boys.
For you Brits out there in Cali.
Yeah, all of us British.
Seems like it should have been part of this, been called the Spanish Commonwealth if it was going to be out there in California.
I think you might be onto something. A little cross promotion with maybe a lucha promotion down there in Mexico. That might be fun.
Anyways, there's something there.
I want to say what's up to my pals. Terry McDermott's in the house. Dave Scooby is here. If you guys are just joining us, this is the Alliance Guys podcast. Again, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance and the United Wrestling Network. And every Thursday night at this time on these channels, you're on YouTube, you're on Twitch. Heck, you might even be on Twitter watching this. We talk about the NWA. We talk about NWA Power. We tell you what we like, what we don't like. And what you'll hear from us is 100% an uncensored, unfiltered opinion of what we think about the show. And sometimes that's a positive opinion, and sometimes it's negative. And on this week's episode, you know that it's kind of a mixed bag. I feel like this episode was a step in the right direction compared to the week prior. And I felt like there were some good things that happened on this show. And there's some things that are a little bit questionable, but it starts off where we have Trevor Murdoch in the announce booth, who was kind of refreshing. What did you guys think of Trevor being in that announce booth?
Well, I want to actually want to make reference to one of my tweets that DK liked over the weekend.
What's that say? You hear from CM Punk Live? We hear from CM Punk Live.
You got to see the picture. He's old and gray.
Oh.
Just hang him up, dude. You look old out there, man. Just hang him up. Just cut promos and sit back and hang him up, man. Anyway, no, I don't. I'll be honest. I didn't like Trevor on the thing. I did not like him, but I just get an announcer, like get a full-time heel announcer or like wrestler-minded person who can abdicate or be the protagonist to all the fluff that Velvet and Joe Galley throw out there. That's just, please. I did not like Trevor, but it's not solving the problem.
DK, what were your thoughts on Trevor in the booth?
I mean, as a one-time thing for the week, I thought it was fine. I kind of tune out the booth altogether, or try my hardest to.
I do listen to the commentary because I'm trying to hear the story that they're trying to project. Obviously, when the commentary is focusing in on a point, that's something they want you to pay attention to because that's a telling point of the story that they're doing. I mean, it was very beleaguered by the trio when Aldis was getting smashed on the last episode, where they kept pointing out, oh my God, he's hurt his neck, and they really emphasized the injury and the how that's going to affect Aldis going forward. They kept saying it's potentially career ending. Now we all know that won't be the case, but that might be a point of contention down the road where if Latimer or Adonis, wrestle against the former champion, they'll be focusing on that neck and they'll be making points to that and referencing that down the road. Oh, his neck, he was injured and all that good stuff. So that
actually brings up something that irritates me in wrestling in general, is with especially the not very professional ring announcers. And that is, don't say crap that's obviously not right. I don't remember who I was watching. I think it was the old NWA Saw show. And I mean, every freaking week, somebody broke a bone if you listen to the announcers. Maybe 3 people. That could have broke his jaw. Those ribs, his ribs. His arm must be broken from taking that move. No. And also, especially in today's world where we get to watch Nick Aldis just a few days later wrestle in, Poland. And we'll talk about, why maybe later, but that stuff, the over-the-top selling of injuries doesn't work unless you truly sell the injury real time. I know Kevin's not the biggest fan of Jim Cornette, but there's a Jim Cornette story about how WWE booked him on Regis and whichever partner he had at the time. And they booked him like the weekend after he was supposed to take a pile driver from Bob Armstrong at a Smoky Mountain show. And he told them fine, but he was showing up in a neck brace. And he did. He showed up in the show and he was in a neck brace, and whatever big pay-per-view they had, that they were promoting, he showed up at that show with a neck brace. Because he was selling the injury and he wasn't going to be seen in public without a neck brace.
Real quick, I don't want to beleaguer the point here, but James H. Jackson says that maybe he should try hitting the ASAP button to see how the Spanish announcing is, because it couldn't be any worse. And I thought that was hilarious. So
burn, I love it.
So the show,
I want to just jump on the Jim Cornette thing just to clear the air. Jim Cornette post wrestling is, in his takes on wrestling in general, is really more where I just care nothing for his podcast or his show. And then I think sometimes, especially when he was calling for the NWA, his stuff was a little dated. That he just, come on, like, let's catch it. Just the whole, everything shouldn't be about the 80s and the way things were in the 80s. But I don't have any problem with Jim Cornette as a manager, and especially as a wrestling mind during the times when his stuff was really relevant. So there's my thing. It's kind of the same thing I have with the Rock and Roll Express, with the exception of at least Cornette's smart enough to not get in the ring and look like an idiot. And at least he's sticking to something that he does really well, which is run his mouth. Which is not a bad thing. I just don't like his stuff. Doesn't mean that he's not good at it. That's, there's a lot of sports teams out there that are really good that I don't like. So
none of the ones we follow.
Cowboys, baby, 4-1.
Give them time.
We'll have to talk about John Gruden another time, but goodness gracious.
Jesus, let's not. Sorry, guys. I digress. I'm so sorry.
So the show kicks off, and for once, we go right into wrestling. And already that puts me in a better mood than I've been in the last few weeks. We go to a semifinal tag team match, which was a pretty good match. I'm not going to say it's the greatest match I've ever had, but you got Hawks Ari, which is Luke and PJ Hawk, teaming against Big Boy Mims, Strong Boy Mims, excuse me, and our pal Sal, led to the ring by Danny Deals. And this, I did want to point this out because this is another anomaly. I can't talk anymore. This is something else that bothers me, that the NWA, because you have Sal, who is the biggest babyface in the company. At this point, he is your top babyface. There's no one over more than him as a babyface. So why in the world are you putting him with a manager who's essentially a heel manager? I mean, make no mistake about it. Nothing Danny Deals does outside of the ring or inside of the ring makes him look like a face. He comes out there wearing a suit that's way too big on him, hair not combed. He looks very raggedy. When he managed briefly our guy Jax Dane, that was tops, and that was his best part after the Mama Storm stuff. But he actually looked like a decent manager and had like a plan. Since then, they really haven't done anything right with him. Putting him as a manager of maybe The End, or putting him as the manager of a solo Kratos, I think that would work really well. But putting him with Sal Rinauro, who he cut a somewhat decent promo, he doesn't need him for a promo help. He doesn't need him to help get over. I just don't see the pairing of that group. And I think you guys would agree with me on that, right?
Devin?
I'm over Sal Rinauro.
Fair enough.
I mean, I don't know if he's the biggest baby face or not, because I mean, he's my official bathroom break now. I don't understand why they invest so much time in a person who I don't find interesting and quite frankly is never going to do anything more than what he's doing. So, I mean, Danny Deals just needs to go away. Sal Rinauro.
Dave Scooby agrees with you, by the way. Deals is just taking up space, according to Dave Scooby.
And Dave is right. And, man, just, they need, the match will go, we'll do my thing, my standard thing. In the isolation, the match was, I didn't have a problem with it. It was solid. I mean, was it the best? No. Was it the worst? No. It was a solid tag team match. And I really enjoy PJ Hawk. So,
well, I think
in the greater context of a tournament to meet the tag team champions, why am I dealing with Sal Rinauro and Mims in a semifinal? I don't know. So, again, good talent, bad booking. Kevin?
There's a lot of things you said that I agree with. I think Danny Deals really is just not even qualified to be out there. He really is just not good. Like, it's not like he's a good heel. He's just one of those that's just, and this is one of those things where just because you go out there and you get on people's nerves does not make you a legit heel. You have to actually be good. There has to be an element of you as a heel that actually makes people at least respect you or have some sense of like admiration in some form or fashion, or at least something that makes you credible or feel credible. He has none of that. And I
should at least want to pay to see you get your ass beat. Sure.
I don't care. And I haven't cared since he's ever been on the show. And it's because, again, I see through like the crap. And I see that he's being thrown out there with very little really understanding or what he's doing. The other side of it is I agree. I respect anybody who would go out there and put their body on the line. Maybe not past the point where they're dumb enough to let Colby Carino try a suplex on them on the apron. That might be the point at which where I go, maybe you don't know better. Because that was just so that was actually the part where Sal kind of started going downhill with me, because in my mind I'm like, who would be dumb enough to let that happen with such a jabroni? But the other side is that I really agree that I don't think Sal really adds a whole lot to the show. It would be one thing if I saw him getting better, like if his physique was getting better, his in-ring abilities were starting to like get better. Some of the areas that maybe he needs growth, like he was actually growing, but he's really not. He hasn't gotten better. He's not more over, and I don't really agree that he's the top baby face. I think he's a baby face on the show. I mean, Trevor Murdoch is your top baby face, so that's the truth. But and again, I like Mims. I don't even really like Mims that much, just to be straightforward. I don't think he's that great. And when you put those two guys and Danny Deals in the ring with Hawks Aerie, it's like you can really tell the difference between who's the pros and who's not. Because
let me ask you: would you rather Hunter or Rush Freeman and Johnny Yuma, the Ill-Begotten? Would you prefer them in the ring with Hawks Aerie?
Well, I think that now you're asking, like, would I like a greenish colored pile of poop or a brownish colored pile of poop? I don't want a pile of poop. Like, give me like something good. Like, it's not like there's not other decent wrestlers out there that they could be bringing on this show. This is a situation where somebody's a buddy of somebody, and somebody will take a certain amount of money, and somebody will do jobs when they need it, and they think, well, they're good enough to do that. And the reality is that you could probably get for the same amount of money somebody that's not your buddy, but that's better for the show, that'll still go out there and do the stuff that you need them to do. And, you know, if I really had the time to actually research these things and look around, I guarantee I could find you 100 wrestlers for the same price that would be way better suited for some of the roles that they're using those 4 guys specifically that you brought up. Because, again, you're looking at a heavyweight babyface with Mims. You're looking at the underdog guy that can cut a decent promo with Sal Renaro. You're looking at a big, tall guy that's not charismatic in Rush, and Johnny Yuma, washed up comedy wrestler. So, like, those guys are not hard to find. So, and I don't think it's a credit to the show to have those kind of wrestlers in your tournament for your world title. I'd rather
in your semifinal
matches. Yeah, shorten the matches up. Like have less matches and have more credible contenders, because then it makes it better. Because Hawks Aries good, man. Those 2 guys are good. They really expose guys like these 2 other guys that we're talking about. And I'm not trying to be harsh on these guys, and I don't think Mims is all that bad. I just think his role in the show is higher or more advanced. Like he's viewed in the show way better than he really actually is. And I think that actually hurts him, and it hurts the credibility of the show, as where if he was what he was, he would be getting booked properly against the proper guys, and he could actually grow and get better. But right now he's being asked to carry a load that he's not ready to carry yet.
So let's get to some of the comments that are in the chat room, because this is an interactive show. We do include you guys because you're part of this whole process with us. Whether Kevin's here, whether DK's here, I'm usually always here. But you guys are part of the show too, and we do love going to your comments. And James, our buddy James says, having Danny Deals on my TV is no deal at all, which I thought was pretty good. Our pal Doty says, don't be fooled with Sal. And he followed that up with, don't be fooled with Sal's innocence. He'll do anything to get what he wants, including aligning himself with Danny Deals. I wish that were true. I kind of wish he would go like all heel and cheat to win, and at least it would make for better TV, I think. Sweet Vanilla says, why do you hate Sal so much? Just watch the show. Terry McDermott says, a heel you love but hate. I think he's referring to Danny Deals, but I'm not sure about that. Our pal Dave Scooby says, we need the old Ring of Honor Sal. He had a good run back in the day. Going back from May's BFF to being managed by Danny Deals, it's confusing. And, of course, Kevin, you already saw it, but our pal Terry says, if I was Billy, I would hire Kevin. I think so, too. Like, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up anyone's ass here, part of my language, but Kevin is very knowledgeable. I think that if I were putting together a wrestling promotion at this point in time, I would be consulting with Kevin at the very least. Him being in Florida and me being in Southern California, I would have him consulting with me the whole time, because he's a guy that knows what he's talking about. And again, I'm not trying to put him over because he's here. It's the God's honest truth. He just knows what he's talking about. Our buddy James also says, Hawks Ari, I love his son, is really soaking in everything going on around him, really honing his craft. He really impresses me. Absolutely, 100%. The thing about this team, this Hawk Ari team, is I think they're so underrated. And this is kind of like a steal for the NWA, because Luke Hawk has always been a very fascinating wrestler to me, going back to even his deathmatch days with XPW. I mean, the guy really has gone through the ringer and has built himself. You know, he was one of those small, skinny guys. He was one of those guys that got beat up and turned out. And he put in the work, and you could see the kind of wrestler he is and his abilities in the ring. His promos are pretty good. His in-ring style is really good. And he's sitting there giving all that knowledge to his son, who it just happens to be naturally athletic and charismatic. And it seems like that this kid, PJ Hawk, has got something going for him. DK, what do you think about PJ?
Well, I think the best thing about PJ is that he's got that amateur background that he's been able to carry into a pro world and make it look good. You know, some amateurs, they don't translate well once they get in because they don't understand the pro way of doing things. But he can do his wrestling and his grinding, and it looks real because he's good, but then he can also do the pro spots that you'd expect in a pro match. And so Kevin's blinking at me over here. I think he is probably, because of teaming with his father and traveling with his father and he's getting the type of experience they used to get in the old days when they were traveling in territories, where you sat in the car and you shut up and you listened to the vets.
Yeah.
And, it's just something that's not as available anymore because of the way the wrestling world has changed. But I think you can see it makes a difference. Kevin, you have thoughts?
Yeah, I think I really like the dynamic of Hawks Airy. What I'm actually the most impressed with is that the NWA is actually getting it when it comes to them. Because a lot of times it really seems like when they have something that they don't really know they've got it kind of thing. And with these guys, one of my biggest concerns was that they weren't going to recognize what kind of potential they had, and they might squander it. And I think right now, at least, they're getting the push they should be getting. They are one of the top tag teams. There aren't a lot of, there's not a lot of continuity in the tag division. So when you have a tag team that actually is really talented like them, that is a good dynamic, you really need to take care of it. And I believe now they're going to face. I'm going to hold off, I think, until we get to the later part of the show. But they're going to be in the finals, and I think that's the spot where they belong because I really think we haven't seen the best of this tag team yet. And I think, DK, one of the reasons that PJ is so good at mending his amateur wrestling style with the professional styles because he has a dad who knows how to do that, who understands the ins and out of it. One thing about Luke that I know, because obviously we've known each other for a long time, is that he has a lot of respect for the amateur wrestling, And that was one of the things that he liked a lot about my style of wrestling and why he used me, is because it brought credibility to his wrestling shows. And so he understands the value, and not only that, but how to integrate that into a pro style. And he's shown PJ that. And what's funny is that, believe it or not, I found out about PJ because a video of him in a mall jumping off of a balcony went viral. And it just shows you that PJ has a lot. There's a lot that we haven't seen yet from PJ Hawks. And I think that, again, to actually even second that, there's a lot we haven't seen out of Luke as well, given his dynamic background. So, again, there's a lot with this team, and I really hope the NWA uses them the best that they can for the time that they have them, because I really would like to see these guys move to move up a notch in terms of just a higher league than the NWA.
So with that being said, let's move on to the show. The next thing we get up is the previously recorded comments from the Pope with Kyle, Textile Kyle, and this was kind of a head scratcher for me, because at one minute you hear the Pope saying, "Hey, you know what? I respect Trevor Murdoch. I love this guy, and I'm going to give him his time as champion. And when I'm ready to challenge, I'm going to make it well known. I'm going to put it out there." And a lot of mutual admiration between him and Trevor Murdoch, which I'm completely fine with. But I just feel like, why does this need to be? Why is it presented this way? Typically, that's what a challenger does, is that match builds up to it. That's kind of what it sounds like he wants for his match with Trevor Murdoch. I don't know. Pope is great on the mic, and I could listen to him read a cookbook, but I just feel like this was a segment that just, I don't know, didn't do anything for me. Kevin, what do you think?
Did he really say anything in this promo? Like,
Not
I
really.
came out of the promo and I was like, he didn't say anything. I mean, all he really did was give respect to the Trevor, but he says on one part of the promo, like, he's not going to challenge him. And the idea of this promo was he was going to shed some light on that, and he shed zero light on it.
I mean, the one thing we know is that he's not going to challenge that for that title in a scrupulous manner. He's not going to cash it in post match like Jack Stane tried to do a few weeks ago. That when
but he already said that. He said that before this promo. This is not. He didn't. There's nothing new in this promo.
That's fair.
Yeah, and so like I this goes back to production, because again, I mean, you could also kind of put this a little bit on Pope too, just to be fair, because he had to say yes to doing this weird promo. But, you know, it didn't say anything, and it was kind of not Pope's best foot forward in terms of what he's capable of promo-wise. So, all in all, I just kind of a dud.
Mr. DK, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I like listening to him talk, but I don't think I got anything out of it outside of, you know, when I challenge, I'll make it known. Okay. Said that the week before. So I don't guess they had anything else for him to say.
Chef Deadpool kind of crystallized what we're all thinking here. He kind of gave the same promos twice, and it was super weird. Where'd it go? It was super weird to have that happen. And then our pal James Jackson says, I was confused too, as they said he had an announcement to make, and we all we got was what he said over and over a few weeks in a row. And the thing about it too is like, you know, they've got this show coming up in Kentucky on October the 24th, Any Means Necessary. This would have been a perfect opportunity to name, you know, Pope versus Trevor Murdoch for that show. Doesn't seem like that's going to be on the card. It just seems like something would have happened right here, and to everyone's kind of pointed it out. Just it was nothing. So, all right, well, we won't meander on that for too much longer. Next up was the back at the podium. We had Kylie Ray, we had Melina, and we had Chelsea Green. And the discussion was about the number one contendership for the women's championship. Now, this Kylie Ray was exactly who Kylie Ray's been. Melina was exactly who Melina's been. And Chelsea Green is this hot mess that we got from Impact a few years ago. I don't like the idea that they're rehashing this. I guess this was really high on Billy Corgan's time with Impact. I just feel like this is kind of pointless. I felt like Chelsea Green had a lot more credibility when she was Chelsea Green and didn't have a silly gimmick attached to it. DK, what did you think about this podium post?
It's boring. Did nothing to excite me. When it comes to Chelsea Green, I think you and I had a conversation offline that something to, you know, they had something that was successful once. So like in wrestling, they have to get a crowbar and beat it to death. And, you know, use it and use it and beat it and beat it and use it and beat it. And, oh, I'm the only one left. What happened? There you guys are. And it was, you know, the Joker would have been proud, for those of you who get that reference. And, yeah, you know, next time I'll go get a snack during a segment like that. Kevin?
Sorry, I spaced for a second. What segment are we talking about again?
The women at the podium for the number one contendership, Chelsea Green, Melina, and Kylie Ray.
Why do they do these kind of promos, man? I don't understand.
To fill
I
airtime.
don't understand it. And I agree, Chelsea Green. I mean, I was excited about her being in the NWA, and I really feel like the thing they've got her doing right now is just she's just way too good for this. Like, honestly, she can just go out there and be a wrestler, cut fairly generic promos, and because of all the effort she puts in on every aspect of her job, she just doesn't need all that. I just, like I said, I mean, all she has to go out there and do is pose and have good matches, tell a story, and, you know, have some continuity, and she doesn't need it all. I just don't think she needs any of that stuff. I think I had thought and hoped that she's past this in her career, in the sense that she could find a way to balance the serious kind of character that she could portray and maybe add some elements of this character to her character without it being so over the top. And really, it's like a disrupting to kind of the flow of things. Melina is the same way. I mean, I feel like every time she talks, she's like talking in space, you know, like just like, it's like you just feel like there's some weird music going on in the background and maybe like some tie-dye flashing at you, you know, like, I don't even, you know, like, I don't know, man. Like, she just makes me feel like I'm on drugs or something, because I don't quite always understand what she's even talking about.
Like Austin Powers.
Yeah, and then Kylie, I mean, I think my issue with her is that who she is as a character and who she is out of the ring and then who she is in the ring are completely different. And my wife, who is obviously not, you know, as into it as we are, but she sees wrestling and has been watching wrestling a lot since she's been with me. And she says that she's the poor man's Bailey. She's like, oh, that's like the poor man's Bebe. Because she calls Bailey Bebe. And so she doesn't know any better. And that's the thing I think is funny, is that I think her opinion is actually more valid than most, because she's just kind of a bystander watching, and she's like, oh, she looks like a ripoff of Bailey, but she's just not as good. And, you know, hey, it's just me now.
I mean, when you're looking at something with a fresh set of eyes, it certainly says something, you know what I mean? Like, it adds, you see things that like maybe you and I don't see because we're so used to what has been presented. So when you have a fresh set of eyes and you're looking at a product, you know what I mean? Like, if I go watch a DC movie, I'm not super into the DC universe like our pal DKM is. So when I watch a DC movie, I'm like, well, like, I love the first Wonder Woman movie. I thought it was incredible. Maybe my favorite comic book movie that year, and in the top 5 of all comic book movies for me all time. But then when I saw the second Wonder Woman, I was like, well, this is not as good. Mm-hmm. And that's how I kind of feel like maybe, you know, your wife and other people who are stepping into wrestling for the first time, they get to experience what we kind of take for granted, but they see the things that we miss because we're so like immune to it. It kind of just goes over our head because we don't pick up on it. So I think that's a pretty good analogy. Chef Deadpool says the NWA just sees Chelsea Green as another tool to interrupt promos. And I mean, you're not far off from that. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty accurate. Yeah, I mean, it's just
when it comes to the current incarnation of Chelsea Green, I kind of look at that the same way I look at like the internet troll. You just don't feed it. And I just can't be positive about this character. And so and the saddest thing is, if this is all she could do, I would sit there and go, well, what else are you going to do with her? But she's shown that she's talented. She's shown that she can go. The match she had with Camille was pretty good, you know. It was what we wanted. And we got to see it and, you know, everything. And it's like, why can't we just keep that character? And then her reason for going back to this crazy, drunken, stoned out, whatever mess of a character was she got pinned by, what's her name, Mackenzie something? Mackenzie Page?
Somebody who hasn't been on the show since she pinned her.
Exactly.
We'll get to more about that in a little bit, but I do want to point out, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, DK. I do want to point out that, you know, the reason why the NWA keeps doing stuff like this is because they keep getting comments like this on Twitter. James pointed this out, but I've seen these 100 times. It's hard. Twitter commented, I watched NWA at the Chase the other night with my little sister. It's so hard not to love what they're doing. Very cool. I mean, that's the problem. There's a lot of yes man fans, and I get, like, you know, I enjoy the NWA, but you got to be able to see the forest from the trees, right? Like, are we the crazy ones here, guys? Are we the ones that have lost our minds? Because it seems like there's this vocal majority who are saying how great the show is. They'll order the pay-per-view without getting a card announced. They don't seem to have a problem with the flaws in the logic or the booking. They don't seem to have a problem with these short matches and things that don't make sense. I don't know, guys. I don't get it.
Well, some of this is the catch of the modern wrestling fan. I mean, honestly, I don't think some are expecting anything to make sense. And I don't mean that as an insult the way it may be coming across, but I mean, I don't think that they necessarily care one way or the other. I mean, it's, you know, wrestling's been goofball for a long time. And it's, you know, and I mean, in some ways you can even trace this back into like the ECW days when fans used to throw chairs in the ring. And, you know, you could do anything, and, you know, you could pile drive a woman 28 times and somehow that would get her pregnant. And don't you remember Tommy Dreamer? He would pile drive, well, I can't remember what her name was, his real life wife or girlfriend or whatever she is.
Francine.
And so anyway, no, Francine was after. Beulah McGillicuddy, right?
Beulah.
And so then all of a sudden, after that happened 900 times, she announces that she's pregnant and the child is Tommy's, and we don't know how that happened. And so it's, you know, there's this thing now where people just want to be entertained on a individual thing. They don't need logic, and they don't need things to make sense, and they don't need it to look real. And I mean, you know, come on, WWE's worst as it's ever been, and still a bad night is drawing, you know, 1.5 million viewers.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you tell me any indie that wouldn't want to draw on a regular basis, you know, 500,000 viewers to anything that they're doing and anything they're putting out.
I wanted to point out real quick too from the chat. Chef Deadpool had said I'd never seen her before in Power and was so impressed during that pay-per-view, and then I was very disappointed by whatever this character was supposed to be. I mean, that's very telling. And then Dave Scooby also adds, she is much better than the Hot Mess. I think they used her old character because that is all she is known for. It worked before, so let's try it again. And I think that's a huge mistake. I think you don't do the things that you get comfortable doing. You have to do the things that are going to help you grow. And maybe that's doing things that you're not comfortable with, but I don't know. And then Dodie echoing what I said, are we the crazy ones here? He doesn't know, but he's afraid to know if it's true. I mean,
well, I'm gonna jump in on Chelsea Green one more time. You know, the reason I feel like I was high on her was really because of the match she had on Raw with Charlotte Flair, and the fact that everything from her entrance to her coming into the ring and all the stuff that she did, the way that match looked, the way she looked on the other side of the ring with someone like Charlotte Flair, who usually it's physically imposing. To me, I said, wow, this girl really could be like a star. Like, she has everything you would want. And from that moment, I've kind of said, okay, well, maybe like all she's got to do is keep doing what she did there over and over again, and eventually it's just going to be undeniable. To me, what I saw against Camille was a very similar type element of that. And what I'm seeing now feels like we're going way backwards, like we've said. And I'm just telling you where kind of where my mind was drawn to in terms of like what I expected to see from her going forward to help her career take off. And I'd hate to see it go the other way.
And my punctuation on this is I just jumped on Twitter real quick, and the first thing that comes up is Impact Wrestling, and they're showing a clip of Lady Frost entering the Impact Zone. And you have to remember, Lady Frost is on the NWA roster, and as I've said maybe 100 times on this show and the pre-party, how a complete package she is. And it feels like, what are they doing? They've got Lady Frost sitting there, not on TV. And instead we're getting promos with Melina. And how about we get more Lady Frost on the camera? Let's use her before she gets locked up by Impact or whomever's going to sign her, because I feel like have her on borrowed time. Same thing with Genocide, I think, and even Camille to an extent. All these ladies are terrific. And I think they're on borrowed time, and if they don't do something with them soon, they're going to end up losing them. And I think that's very, very unfortunate. So, but let's go on. Let's move to the next part. And that is, was that the TV title match or the Empower Mickie James announcement? You guys remember?
No, it's the TV title.
So we get the TV title match up next. And this one's a doozy. I mean, you kind of knew that there was going to be some shenanigans with Tyrus and the Idol Sports Management and Jordan Clearwater. If you were expecting Clearwater to really give it 130%, I think you haven't been paying attention. But this match, I mean, for the first 2.5 minutes of nothing, it was awful. But Clearwater did kind of put in some effort there, and he had a couple of his Midas touches. That's his finishing maneuver, although you wouldn't know that from the NWA because I don't think he's ever connected with it on TV before. And he hit the TV champion a couple of times, and you started to think that maybe they were going to take this match serious and maybe something was going to go down. And, of course, the match is over almost before it even started to get the heart punch, which the more that Tyrus does that heart punch, I think the more they're not doing it right. There are ways to make this move look legitimate and deadly and violent and scary, and I don't feel like they've done that. It feels more like a joke when Tyrus does his heart punch, especially when he does it to his own man, and he ends the match, gets the 1, 2, 3. Of course, they're just building this up for Tyrus to eventually get to that lucky number 7. I think he'll be the first one to cash it in, and that's how they'll ride him off into the sunset. I don't think he'll be around much longer. But you both have a disgusted look on your face. DK, I'll let you go first. What did you think of the TV title match?
It was bad. And by the way, he has actually connected with his Midas touch before, but he's never pinned anybody in the NWA from it. And it's just, the whole, just everything. I suppose we were supposed to try and figure out whether it was a double cross or not when Clearwater actually tried to pin him, but I didn't care enough to figure it out. And please send Black G's away. Please. Pretty please. Send him and Danny Deals together. Let them, hold hands and skip off into the sunset. And never grace my screen again. I don't like either one of them. I just don't. And God, it was bad. I mean, and what I'm trying to figure out is what are they trying to do with Tyrus? Because he goes to the interview panel, and May's there, and Mace saying something like, I didn't think I was going to like you, but I do. Or I missed exactly what she said. And it's just like, are they trying to turn him face? I mean, what's going on? And then, of course, the crowd yells and he storms off, which was, please, crowd, yell more at him. And so, yeah, give him the 7 wins. Can we get it over, in the next 2 weeks? Just let him defend the title all show against the same guy. I don't care who. Sal. Bring in Sal. He can defend his title against Sal, however many more times he needs to get a 7. Put him in the ring with Murdoch. Let Murdoch win. Send him to Fox. And let's never talk about this again. Kevin?
It was bad. But also, I have a question just in relation to, like, Jordan Clearwater. Like, have you ever noticed, like, when a person has, like, really blonde eyebrows, like, and really blonde facial hair? Like, no, I can see your eyebrows. But when they have really blonde eyebrows, they look like a baby. Like a baby, like when you look at a baby, they don't have any eyebrows, and then they cry like, like when he's out there, like looks like a baby, like my wife. I was saying this to my wife, and she's like he has a baby face. I said, no, that's like when somebody looks young. I said, no, he looks like a baby. Like babies almost look old. Like it's like this looks like a baby. So now I think about Jordan Clearwater, you think of a baby.
When Kevin has a kid, I'm going to look at the baby and go, oh, it looks just like Jordan Clearwater.
That might get you punched in the nose, sir.
Maybe.
If it look, hey, listen, it's a baby. So and with Clearwater, with the blonde, he looks like a baby. So there you go, guys. That's part of the reason why I got paid the big bucks was entertainment value. There's your entertainment value for the night, because frankly, this match was not entertaining whatsoever. So we had to do something. Moving right along.
Hey, Chef Deadpool goes the Tyrus angle.
I watched Jordan Clearwater in Championship Wrestling.
Well, that was loud.
And even if he takes a loss, like he still looks good in the ring, and that wasn't this. And to Chef Deadpool's point, this Tyrus angle is the real hot mess. I mean, he's onto something there. Terry McDermott said Jordan Clearwater could be so much more, and again, I have to agree with that. I don't know why they built this entourage against the low point of the show. Like, why? I could take Idol in small doses. Give me Idol and Clearwater, and let's ditch the rest of it. I think you've got something interesting there, something that would make sense. Dave Scooby wanted to point out, in case you guys missed it, it's going to be a family feud when Tyrus George Murdoch takes on Trevor Murdoch. Yeah, I guess they're legit cousins. I didn't know that. And then one thing that I do want to acknowledge before we go on to the show, and this is something that's been bothering me too, so I'm kind of glad that James brought it up. But not to go too far off topic, but another thing that irks me is lately they have put more and more full matches and episodes, sometimes less than 10 hours after we watch them on our dime for free on YouTube. And yeah, that really bothers me too, because again, the dollar amount isn't the big deal, but the fact that I've committed to paying you for these shows, I should have some sort of exclusivity. And if in 10 hours, if in a week you're putting up the content that I'm paying for, then why should I keep paying for it? How do you guys feel about that?
Well, that's how they sold it.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I said that's how they sold it. Exclusive.
Yeah. But it's not.
The only place you would be able to get the content would be on Fight TV. Well, of course it's not, because, everybody out there kind of put your brains together and think there's a reason that it's no longer so exclusive. And, make of that what you will. But yeah, why Why am I paying? I need Jay, you need to send me $1 because then I can write all these shows off that I'm paying for.
Absolutely.
Kevin?
Maybe be like straight up, like, no, hearing this makes me even more feel like this, like do I want to keep paying for this show, considering that the pay-per-views are actually where you get your money's worth? And just, hey guys, I'm gonna pop in for the pay-per-views because I'm gonna stop paying for this because I can't. It's not that I can't afford it. I just, now that they're putting the matches that I'm paying for free on YouTube. And DK, you said something about like what were you insinuating, because I didn't get it.
There's just rumors as to the numbers that they're getting on Fight TV, and maybe they need to get more people interested in wanting to buy.
And so they're just giving the show away to make them buy what they could get for free on YouTube.
Well, the idea
whose
is
idea would that be?
The idea was supposedly, because you notice it's grown what they're putting on YouTube. And so the idea was they keep trying to get people interested because, you put something behind a paywall, not very many people see it.
Yeah.
And so they're not getting very many people seeing the show. I think, and I think they keep thinking that, well, if we do this, maybe we'll get more people to be interested in wanting to see the show. But the truth is, it makes me less interested in wanting to pay for the show because now I can see stuff for free. I mean, they're not going to give me the main event, but a lot of their main events suck on the show. So it's just like, if they give me enough information to keep me up to date, and like I said, the pay-per-views tend to be good. So, and obviously, they don't need to announce a pay-per-view card to get people to buy it. So we'll just join those people. And we can go into it blind, but we might enjoy what we see more. Because a lot of this, let's move forward. Let's look at this next segment because it made me want to throw up.
Well, I shared this
Speaking
comment.
of throwing up.
I shared this comment without reading it all the way through. But now it's up, so it's up. What would Luthez do says, leaves you feeling like the only guy charged admission to a gangbang. Oh, boy. Okay. And then James H. Jackson says, between the free stuff and the pay-per-views, I feel like Kevin is onto something. Yeah, look, there's so much good wrestling out there, and this is kind of like a punishment for us for being NWA fans. And, we've been talking. DKM and I have been doing this podcast since 2009. I know you guys might have just started watching us in the last year. We've been talking about the NWA since 2009. There wasn't a national TV show until 2019. So all the years leading up to this, we did interviews. We just talked about the brand. We talked about who the champions were. We interviewed guys like Kevin. We'd interview guys like Adam Pearce. We'd interview guys like Houston Carson. We could go back to that. Honestly, I don't think any one of us are married to this show. And if our audience says, hey, man, we don't need 2 recap shows, we could go on and do something else. But this is, this show has always been about to try to support and promote what the NWA is doing. But it's getting to a point where that's getting more and more difficult. It just is. And
we do have serious conversations. Go ahead, Jay. Sorry.
There's bright moments to the show. There's some things on the show that are like, hey, that was pretty cool. But you're committing $5 a month. That's $60 a year. You shouldn't be seeing what you're seeing that you're being charged for that other people are getting for free. And I think that's a very poor business model. And I think that's a very poor direction for the NWA. If they want to do something to get more viewers, then how about book better talent or have better storyline? Or, I don't know, you could give away a match on YouTube. But if you give away the whole show, then what's the point of me paying for it?
Well, a lot of places, what they'll do is and we've talked about maybe them need to do this, is they'll tape a YouTube match at the taping, That's not part of the normal show. So, like they had.
Sorry, DK, but to interrupt, that could be a really good match too. It doesn't have to be a crap match, because we'll all go watch it and talk about it.
Yep.
Well, and you'd want it to be a good match because, again, you're trying to sell something to them. Hey, see more of this type of action by getting our subscription on Fight. But and I'm going to go back against my better judgment to the TV title match. But, I mean, if that didn't have Billy Corgan's fingerprints all over it, I don't know what does. I mean, based on the things I've heard of what Billy Corgan likes, that is exactly his type of match. Waste 2.5 minutes of taking ring gear off, make it look like one guy swerving the other guy, and then have it go nowhere, and who knows what will happen next week. They may all be together again, or they may all hate each other, and none of us will care one direction or the other.
No, they're all going to pretend like nothing happened, and it's not going to move the needle. It's not going to move the storyline. It was all part of the plan.
I'm interested. What does that mean, DK? Like when you say, and again, because maybe you guys have more of a finger on the pulse to this thing, but what do you mean when you say it has Billy Corgan written all over it? Because I don't know what that means, because I don't know enough about Billy Corgan and his booking or what supposedly is going on.
From what I've been told by somebody who used to work the area, Billy Corgan, a little bit like Vince McMahon, is kind of just, he would be the type of person that would come up with the idea of, it would be real good shit. Let me tell you, it's going to be really good. We'll get Clearwater in there, we'll get Tyrus in there, and we'll ring the bell, and it'll look like we're going to just run all the time out for them to get undressed because their partner is cooperating. And then we'll get them undressed, and then the guy will, hit Tyrus, and then Tyrus will wonder what the hell is going on. He'll get hit again, but he keeps kicking out, and then, he'll lay him out with one punch. Man, that'll be good. Okay, so that's Vince McMahon. So Billy Corgan would be more like, oh, dude, cool. Do you know what might really, be neat would be if we put them in the ring together, and they say, and we get them to ring the bell, and they'll take all their time to get the ring jackets off and do all this fluff, and the fans will think that they're just running out of time, and they'll think that they're getting screwed, like I screwed them with the tag team title match that never happened that one time, and it'll get over so big, because what we'll do is then we'll have Clearwater try to win the title off Tyrus real quick, but we won't let that happen because Tyrus is our man, he's our friend, he's our buddy, and so he'll just knock him out with that one punch, and then he'll go to the ring, and he'll go to the podium, and he'll be a babyface then.
And here's Billy's booker the whole time.
Yep. So there, if you ever want to know how two owners talk, that's it.
Well, first of all,
and I go ahead and call out what James just said.
James is hearkening back to what Kevin said lots of times, that he blames the wrestlers too for allowing this to happen. Like, you could say, hey, no, I don't think that's right. But then I've also heard different stories about Corgan too, where it's like, if you don't do his way, get the fuck out of here. Pardon my language. But I've heard that. Like, this is his show, and he's going to do it his way. And if you don't like it, there's the door.
Hey, for Jordan Clearwater, or Black G's, or Sauronaro, or some of these other guys, okay. Like, for them, it's make the most of it to get your name out there. But for these other guys who I believe could truly work for a lot of the better companies in the world right now, I don't see how they would just be so scared. Of what Billy Corgan wants and how Billy Corgan wants it. A message to Billy Corgan: if that's how you're running your business, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. You're going to fail.
Well, and look, the fact of the matter is there are options that are coming up. I mean, guys like Slice Boogie, I mean, he's signed to MLW. Like, there's going to be a point in time where he's not going to have time for the NWA anymore, and more things like that are going to happen. I just said earlier, Lady Frost is on freaking Impact right now. Like, she literally is on Impact like in the last 5 minutes, and where these talents are going to stick around forever, especially if you're not putting them in compelling storyline that's helping solidify their legacy and helping them get to the next stepping stone. And Dave Scooby says it, man, 7 weeks to Hard Times pay-per-view. Tyrus needs 5 more wins to challenge Trevor, not looking forward to the next few months of the NWA. I mean,
I don't think Billy cares whether people stay or go, because they've said it before, and you can tell in some of the booking that they're basically building this around 5 people, and I think everybody else is expendable to them.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
And so
I think that's part of the reason why they have that carousel of talent, because if people go, all right.
Well, also, I think too, like what you're looking at is, even if you are on, on the inner circle or one of the people they're really going to push, like maybe Thunder Rosa, if you show any ambition to do more with your career, you're going to get punished for it, pretty much. I mean, that's what I think you're looking at with Lady Frost, is probably that she's been getting booked all over, and you're probably going to see some of the same stuff happen with Thunder Rosa's talent, the Mission Pro people. You're probably going to see them getting poo-pooed on as well. It just feels very much like the only people that are safe are Billy's old Impact crew. And other than them, it's pretty much like, you're there to polish my talent, my guys or girls, my guys or my gals.
So let's get to something that was actually pretty good, right? Let's get to something that I felt like really moved the needle, pushed the storyline forward, and kind of helped solidify one of the talents as a star. Now, Kevin has been a huge fan of Thom Latimer for months, for years. In fact,
Hey Jay,
yeah,
you're missing the puke-inducing segment.
Oh, well, I was hoping to avoid that. Oh, okay, I know which one you're talking about. Kiera Hogan interrupting the illustrious Mrs. Aldis during the
for
show.
a big announcement.
The big announcement, which I think the announcement was there's going to be an Empower episode, which is what they kind of alluded to with the trio women earlier. But Kiera Hogan kind of goes into business for herself, asking for a match. To me, it reminded me of Dennis Stamp and, hey, Terry, I'm not booked. I just kind of felt like, what's going on with this? It just, they kept playing it. Mickey's like, this is the NWA. We don't do those kind of things here. It's like, lady, you haven't really been around for very often. That's exactly how they do things here. DK, you called it. It was a waste of time. Kevin, do you have anything you want to add to it?
Look, it's my wife.
I saw Mrs. Modern Day Hero.
It's the Mrs. Wow, the highlight of my show just happened. I agree. I mean, I don't know if it was throw up worthy, but it was kind of cringy. Like Mickey James, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just didn't like it. Yeah, I agree. It wasn't very good.
And again, this show has been struggling to be relevant, struggling to find an identity. And the next performance we get, all the adulations that Kevin has given to Thom Latimer kind of came to fruition. We know that he's been excellent in the ring. He's been okay on the mic, kind of what Kevin said. He fits the personality. It's, if he's out there grunting like the Tasmanian devil, then that's what he is. But we actually saw something that we never had seen from Latimer before, and that was something from the heart. And even if it was a vengeful place, it was something from the heart. And I wrote it down because I just felt like it was so like powerful, because Latimer basically said that all of Aldis's achievements were built on the back of Thom Latimer, and that everything he got, he used a Latimer to get to it. And that now that he's lost the title, he's become weak. He's no longer the man he used to be. And I'm going to paraphrase. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but he said to tell your son, I'm sorry that your daddy is a failure. I'm sorry daddy is a loser. I'm sorry daddy is no longer the champion. And I'm sorry that Uncle Tom kicked my ass. But more importantly, son, I'm sorry I lost a best mate. It was very powerful the way it was delivered. You had Camille there kind of like doing the looks and the head bobs and stuff. And
the whispering too. It's a great touch.
It was a very powerful moment for the character, for Thom Latimer. You know, I don't know if they're going to still call that group Strictly Business. I don't know what's going on exactly with it. But that moment, I feel like, could be a career-defining moment for Thom Latimer, where he finally steps out of the shadow and maybe a higher focus is now presented to him. I thought this was great. This is what made the episode for me. This was worth my $1.25 investment. Kevin, I know he's your guy. What did you think?
Well, I think it, and again, this is not an I told you so, but this is probably part of why you guys have me on the show, is because I just see stuff, and there's certain things that just like when like guys that really have it, there's just something there, and there's something that they do in the details, and you can tell when they're really very detail oriented about every little thing that they do. And then not only that, but they can execute at it as well. And Latimer has had that from day one. And again, say what you want about physiques, but, there's a lot of effort and time and sacrifice that has to go into a physique like that, like to look that way. And so, again, I think you're talking about a guy who still feels like he has a lot to prove in the wrestling business, that really has been waiting for this moment, whether he's going to say it in the back or whether he's going to say it really to anybody or not, that this shows that he believed deep down like he really is the top guy. Because not only has he come to the pay-per-views more prepared than anybody else for his matches, not only in the way he wrestles in the ring, but the way he looks, his gear, the whole thing. The explosiveness and crispness of the way he wrestles, you can tell he puts a lot of time and practice into it. And so to me, to see him come out and have a breakout promo, especially saying things that really resonate from like truth, this could be the beginning of a very good build towards a character. And the person it reminded me of the most when it comes to my mind, and again, not necessarily in terms of because this character, who I'm going to refer to, is a little bit more over the top, but it's the same kind of like feel that you get and the same kind of completeness. And that would be like Brian Pillman. Because Brian Pillman had everything. Like everything. Like his promos, his look. When he wrestled, it was always really, really explosive. And he always found a way to do less. But when he did, what he did was really, really good. And Brian Pillman also had that edge about him that was like, man, if I had to wrestle him, it could get crazy. He might beat me up. So there's a lot of that. I feel like there's a lot of that same kind of feel with Thom Latimer. And so again, I just think he's got a lot there, and I think he's got really more than anybody else. And to see him come out and cut a promo like this, what's funny is WWE in the 90s, in the late 90s when it took off, was really, really bad. Like 90% of that show sucked. But when Steve Austin came out or when The Rock came out, like you had to watch. And I would like to think that as I continue to pay for this show, they're going to give a platform to some of their better talents that can make up for the garbage that they put out there on the in-betweens. And we've said this a lot of times, even every great wrestling show has bad moments. But I will say that, first of all, they better not put this promo on freaking YouTube. And secondly,
I think it's already on.
Well, if it doesn't sell them some stuff, I don't know what will. But the truth is that this was the best part of their show, and now I want to see them deliver by giving this guy a real push.
Yeah, that video was uploaded 6 hours ago. It's already got 5.9 thousand views, which, I mean, that's good for the NWA. I hope they made some money off of it, but at the end of the day, it's like, thanks for nothing, Billy. DK, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, to the promo?
It's probably the best, brightest segment they've had since they, in this set of tapings. I'm going to say something that might be unpopular. I don't know. I would have preferred Camille not to have been out there. I found her just a little bit distracting. I mean, they pulled it off well, but I think if it had just been him staring in the camera, saying what he said, it would have come off better. Personal opinion. I'm going to bring up something. I know Kevin and I have talked about this before offline. As you know, there is controversy with Thom Latimer. And do you think that could potentially hold him back?
Is that a question? I would love to answer.
That's a question. Yeah, I mean that's an actual question. Do you think that?
I'll answer. I'm gonna answer that, and I'm gonna also comment. I actually hadn't thought about what that promo would have been like without Camille, and actually, you're right, because it could have even been better had she come out with him, and him, as a good boyfriend, might say, hey, I'm gonna do this. I got to do this by myself.
Yeah.
And her understanding that, and him going out there, it would have even been more heartfelt. So I agree 100% with that fact. Do I think it could hold him back? It's all about how you use him. It's all about what you do, because part of that has to be, people can't buy into Thom Latimer and then they have never seen him, have never tuned into NWA, and he's going to be your main guy, and then have to find out on the internet about what happened in his past. What the NWA needs to do is they need to front load this stuff, not act like it hasn't happened, and say, look, this is a guy, a reformed guy who has gone through this kind of stuff, has come out on the other side of it, and deserves a second chance, and this is what he's doing with that second chance. That's how it needs to be presented, and it needs to be not kayfabe at all. It needs to be something that they actually take ownership of and take responsibility for, so that we can enjoy Thom Latimer, that we don't have to feel like we're cheering for somebody that might actually be a really bad guy. And so again, I think that that's all about how the NWA handles the situation.
Do you think that he would be better served as a babyface and having Aldis as the heel, or do you think it's better the route that they're going?
No, I think it's good the route it's going, because he just isn't a babyface, not a straight babyface. Now, in a situation, you could make him that, but it would have to be, and I bring up Steve Austin or Brian Pillman in a way, because he's never going to have that. He can't take a direction of like being a soft character. Like, you just can't do that with him, because it doesn't fit the image or him in general. That you can't do, but you can, that's why I'm saying it shouldn't be a kayfabe. It should be a kayfabe kind of thing, because not a kayfabe thing. Like they come out and let's use Billy, for maybe you could use him for good for once, but maybe have Billy come out and just say, hey, I'd like to address something, especially if they're going to push him, right? Like, if they're going to push him, right, you're going to make him champ, or you have ideas to make him champ. Before you even start that, you come out and you say, listen, I would just like to say a few things about one of my guys on my roster, who I think is one of my best talents that we have, and one of the guys that I consider a foundation cornerstone type of the NWA, and that's Thom Latimer. I may not agree with the way Thom Latimer handles himself on camera, but I do know there's a lot of controversy about him off camera. And then address that situation. You could even have Latimer come out and say, I don't need you to defend me, Billy Corgan, or if you wanted to, or just have him never even bring it up and just make it completely separate from the show so that it can give us the freedom to like Latimer, to buy into Latimer, and that the fans don't have to go, oh, the NWA is trying to pretend like this isn't there. And I think if you did that, like just did that outright, and Latimer signed off on it, you would be perfectly. It would free up the fans to like him and to get behind him and support a championship run, and it wouldn't come back and bite him later with press saying, "Oh, the NWA is supporting this domestic violence guy." Instead, no, the NWA is helping reform this domestic violence guy.
I mean, I think that sounds pretty good to me. I think when it comes down to it, they have to get in front of it for sure, no matter what. But as of right now, it hasn't been much of an issue, so maybe they'll just continue to ignore it.
Just one more on this. The more elevated Thomas Latimer gets, though, the more he breaks into wrestling mainstream, the more people are going to be making those kind of comments, making the comments that I have seen them make already about him. So
I mean, we've seen it with Tyrus. When Tyrus came back, a lot of people, were bringing up his history. How could the NWA bring him in, and how, I'm not going to watch it as long as he's there. And, of course, some people who said that never went away. But, it is, like Kevin says, the higher you go, when you're just kind of a hitman in a group, you can kind of get away with it a little more. When you start, getting ready to be top challenger for the world title, let's say, more people will notice, more people will say something.
To both of your points, he was scheduled to be a part of Preston City back in August. Him and Camille both were supposed to head over there. Now I knew there was some issues with COVID and travel restrictions, but the minute he was announced, there was a big pushback on Preston City Wrestling in the UK, and they ended up dropping him off the card. Now they still were advertising Camille until it was apparent that the travel plans wouldn't happen. But it just goes to show you that there are some people out there that have not forgiven, have not forgotten, and they might not ever forgive or forget. So, I mean, it is what it is. And at some point, yeah, I think you're right, Kevin. It does need to be addressed. I don't know how you do it on Power, and maybe that's something they just do off the show, do it on YouTube. Maybe just an open forum with Billy, or something like that. But let's move forward with the show because we only have a little bit left to talk about. And your boy Jay's starting to get hungry. So James Storm meanders up to the podium after Camille and Tom leave. And it's the same rah-rah promo we get week in and week out with James Storm. There's nothing wrong with James Storm. There's nothing wrong with his promo. But it's just like the Pope promo from earlier. There's nothing to it. It's, hey, I want to be national champion, and I'll go out there and I'll fight, and I'll never give up. And, yeah, you know what? I want James Storm to be national champion too because they haven't done anything with Adonis. And it seems like there hasn't really been a solid national champion in a while. So I have no problem with the Storm reclaiming that title. DK, what did you think of the promo?
Yeah, it was fine. I don't have a lot to say about it one way or the other. Hopefully this means Judas, whoever is gone, and they'll never have to deal with him again. And
unfortunately, with when it comes to Judas, he's booked for the October 24th show, and he's got a match with Sauer and Aro. He's putting up his national title number one contendership in a one-on-one match with Sauer and Aro. So he's not going away. And
let me dream. Must you crush my dreams immediately?
haven't you met me before? That's my job. I am the dream crusher.
Well, I crushed a lot of yours, so I guess it makes sense. That being said, just boy, if that wasn't the most worthless thing, him. And if he's facing Sal Rinauro, at least he's facing the right guy.
Yes.
And that he's still the number one contender after getting his ass handed to him twice, pardon the French, by James Storm. And, Chris Masters, Kevin had the best idea. Go away, shave your head, grow a long beard, change your body style, shape, and then come back.
I think he should come back wearing a Ultimo Dragon mask. That's my vote for Adonis.
Oh, well.
Sometimes
let me correct your dream.
Sometimes I just say things to see if Kevin's going to react, and he didn't even budge on that one.
We're getting used to you, Jay.
Look. What I'm proposing for Adonis is actually I have it with good intention, like that. I really believe a wrestler, once you start to get older, if you're gonna keep doing it, you've got to have more than just the cookie cutter stuff. Like there's got to be an edge. You got to go through something. You have to go through a life change that changes you, that makes people interested in why you're doing what you're doing. Yeah. McDermott with the phrase of the night so far.
I'm telling you, Willie Bowen is always giving us the Tyrus jokes, and now we got Terry giving us the Danny Deals and Adonis jokes. This show just keeps getting better.
I like that. I like that comment though. For real, that's funny.
What are you gonna say?
Go ahead, Jay.
Adonis is a muscle-bound Danny Deals, which means he's a zero.
Yeah, he's not good. No, and again, I will go out and say, I don't think you're going to see Adonis in better shape than you saw him at the last pay-per-view. Yeah. And that's still not enough. It's just not. And again, he still looked good. I felt like the best he's looked, but I just think in order for him to be more interesting, for us to care, as DK says, something needs to happen to him in his life, and we need to see some changes happen to him, and his style needs to change to more mature wrestling, like an old man wrestling style.
Well, look, we all remember Stunning Steve Austin. We all remember Rocky Maivia. Or maybe we don't, because they, of course, became famous and mega over as, Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. And so, how you present yourself is important. And Masters, Adonis, whatever you want to call him, I call him Masters because he's basically the same character he was when he wrestled as Chris Masters. He still has Masters on his tights half the time, if not more often. I mean, it's just...
Those are his old tights. He's still wearing his WWE tights.
He probably gets Masters fit on his new ones because nobody cares about Chris Adonis. I don't remember what name he used in. Was it Adonis that he used in Impact or TNA? I don't remember. And it's just like he needs to rebuild. He needs to go from Blonde Surfer Sting to Crow Sting.
That's a great analogy.
No, I agree. I think we're all on the same page with Adonis. No one here is saying that he's not talented or that he doesn't still carry value. No, it's just that it's time for a little something different to take him to, if he wants his career to last and continue to be successful. And like I said, if old dude and Pico can do it, then anybody can do it.
And the thing about him too is it's not him as a wrestler that's kind of failed to get over. It's that the NWA has chosen to do nothing with him. Like I get what you're saying, Kevin, and I agree with you. A change would do him some good, but it's, you look at the booking. His first run as national champion was a dud. They did absolutely nothing. His second run as national champion, he's had one title defense. That's it. And it's hard to get excited about a guy who can't get out there and deliver. Like when we had the Pope, and I need to reiterate how good the Pope was, that week in and week out, he was having either a match or was on commentary or at the podium. And every time he was presented, he looked like a champion. He acted like a champion. And you knew at some point he was going to be world champion. Now that hasn't come to fruition, but there's still time. With Adonis, we barely see him in any kind of authoritative role. When he wrestles, half the time they're tag team matches, so we don't even get to see him defend that title. And it's not like he comes out there and just destroys people. He's having competitive matches with Jay the God. He's having competitive matches with Trevor Murdoch. He hasn't had that signature moment. They've done nothing to elevate him, and therefore the title itself is being devalued by being held by a guy who just isn't doing anything. The gears are spinning. He was supposed to go to the UK and defend against Doug Williams. That would have been great for the NWA. That would have been great for Adonis. That match didn't happen because of COVID. Okay, that sucks. Moving right along. He was just in Poland. They didn't bother bringing the national title with him to Poland, and they barely referenced him as the NWA national champion on that telecast. So, again, Adonis, whether you like the gimmick or not, the man himself has value. They just need to find it. They just need to pull it out. They just need to show it. And they haven't done that. And I blame the NWA on that. Adonis could do things to get himself over. Adonis could do things to put himself in a better spotlight, like Kevin said, a gimmick change, a different outlook on life, whatever it is. But you still need the promotion to back your play. And so far they haven't. Putting the belt on him doesn't make him a star.
They made a mistake by putting the belt back on him. Because he already came out and said the belt isn't important. Because he gave it up. So that he could protect Nick Aldis, and of course we all saw how that worked out.
Yep.
And so their big mistake was putting it back on him because the belt's on somebody who we already know doesn't value it. And so I don't understand them, and I don't understand their booking. And we said when he gave the title up that they should put that belt on a shelf and, do away with it for a while. Not never bring it back. But, man, at the time Pope was hot on the TV title, they could have, focused that, made that their primary power championship. And then the world champion, makes his appearances, every second, third show and does his interviews. But I don't know.
So let's put a bullet in this one. That takes us to the semifinals. That's the matchup between Kratos and Stevens and the end. Now this match on paper should have been good. And there were a lot of points in the match that I thought were very entertaining. Stevens kind of taking the brunt of the punishment was only fitting, and the way they treated Kratos was a lot more beneficial to Kratos. They treated him more like he was a bigger deal than they have in a while, and I appreciated that, watching him in the ring with Paro and the fact that he scooped that dude up with like nothing. I really enjoyed seeing that version of Kratos. He was fired up. He looked good. And in terms of his in-ring ability, like this was his moment where I think he shined the most as far as I'm concerned as being a member of the NWA. But the drawback was the storyline was Stevens, who lost his smile. And I don't know why this is, again, why is this a prevailing, like, why can't they just lose? Why can't they just not be ready to rematch for the tag titles? Why does there have to be some underlying story, some overly told story, overly booked situation? Hey, look, Stevens doesn't have his shit together right now. Pardon my French. He's just not there, and that's perfectly okay. Oh, that's the camera, and that's perfectly okay.
I thought we covered this. I thought we covered this, Jay. I thought we talked about the camera already.
We did. We always talk about the camera, but it's only got an hour and a half battery life.
Buy a second battery.
Okay.
Hey, I do, but it's dead too. But you know what? I have a backup. Just hold on a second. I'll be right there. It's all good, baby.
Guys, off camera, just so y'all know, off camera, we already spoke about the camera going off to Jay. So all the heat's on Jay right now, guys. Not on us. Don't blame us. There's so much heat. There's so much heat right now. In fact, the chat's blowing up. Look at these guys. I can't believe the camera went off. Oh my gosh, here we go again.
No, that's all good, baby. We're here.
I'm kidding. Nobody said anything. But guys, if y'all want to give Jay a hard time in the chat, please feel free.
Look, I'm here.
Please do.
Oh, Terry says they're setting up a feud with Stevens and Kratos. Like, okay, well then let's get to it already. For God's sakes.
But do we care?
Stop all the I don't. I don't. Aaron Stevens, I'm past caring about Aaron Stevens as this kind of Aaron Stevens.
And let's be honest, Stevens is better as a heel. So if he feuds with Kratos, does that make Kratos the face?
No, Kratos is going to be the heel, and they're going to have Aaron Stevens' face. It's going to be awful.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just, I mean, you're probably right. That's probably what they're setting up. I mean, let's remember these guys have been having issues since they won the tag titles, and the show started in what, March? And it's October. Yeah. So, you know, we've dealt with this for 6 months or something like that. And it's been a slow burn that we've all wanted to go away and smolder and, you know, throw water on and put the fire out. And because I guess we don't want to put the fire out because there's never been a fire. It's just, you know, I said it a long time ago. I go, we're going to break them up, pull the trigger and break them up. Then they didn't do it.
Aaron Stevens. The fire is in Aaron Stevens.
And then I reached the point that I didn't want, you know, I didn't want them to have a big falling out. I just want them to go their own ways. Just not team together anymore.
I like
Kratos
Jody's comment. And, well, getting some echo now.
Of course we are. That I think that's a sign, Jay.
Hey, man. It is what it is.
Am I echoing too?
No.
Oh, I'm echoing.
I'm perfect.
Wow, guys.
Okay, so how about now? Am I echoing now?
I'm echoing.
Now that you're on the other side? No.
All right,
Man.
well, so how about now? Am I echoing now?
Yeah,
Yep.
Now I'm hearing you like way later.
No.
But guys,
give it a second. Just everyone wait.
So, how about now? Am I echoing now?
Yeah,
Yep.
Now I'm hearing you like way later. Oh wow, this is incredible. Hey guys in the chat, what's going on? Are you guys hearing the echoing going on right now with our awesome production? Did Jay just silence us?
Yeah.
He's being quiet. He's leaving it to us.
Oh. Well, in that case, the end beat Kratos and Aaron Stevens, who had a tipped at the end, and they were in the finals for the World Tag Team Championship Tournament, even though it's
so now that
contenders,
means,
not actual champions.
But that means we've got Hawks Airy versus The End, which is a match we would like to get excited about, but tell me you're not a little timid because it's the NWA's booking that's going to have something. They're going to book this. So are you timid?
Well, first, let me say I'm impressed that they actually had 2 tag teams in the finals. So, you know, props to them. We all know they hate tag teams. So, or at least Corgan does. And so, you know, props for actually putting 2 in there. I don't know who I want to win. I mean, my soft spots for, you know, Hawkeye's and, but I don't think that they would put the titles on them. So then it's like, well, you know, if The End wins, I feel like there is actually
Jay been drinking again. I think that you know, the end would at least put forth a match where you go, titles could change hands. So
yeah, I think the end proposes like the most I would say it would feel like the most even matchup. Like you wouldn't have a major underdog, but I think Hawks Aries would provide that major underdog scenario as well, and you'd have actually some real baby faces going up against the champs. I think it would be that would be the benefit there. The benefit for the other guys for the end is that really I feel like it's their time to have a tag title match. But also I think that it creates kind of like they're the underdog, but they're not like the major underdog. But I just haven't been very impressed with the end as of late.
You know, the interesting thing when it comes to the end is that separate, Perro seems to be a heel, but as a team, they seem to be a face.
I like what Doty said. He said, did Billy just hack Jay's speaker?
Maybe. Apparently he hacked a studio thing because Jay seems to be having just way too much fun, you know, switching between 3 cameras and 4 cameras. And I want a refund on the studio now if you're going to keep doing this. Still not talking, so we don't get the echo real late.
Okay, I'm going to talk, but there's going to be an echo. Or maybe not.
We didn't say we wanted you to talk.
There is an echo when you talk, but you could always talk, say your thing, then go back on mute. And then we'll just deal with the echo when you talk.
So the point that you guys are making, I thought Kratos and Stevens had a good match, just not the best outcome for Stevens. I was very happy with the end winning because I think it really sets up a good matchup for that tag team finals. I think seeing the end and Hawk Ari is really setting up a really good dynamic. But something Doty said way earlier in the show, and I'll pull it up on screen right now. Oh, I guess I can't. He said that a matchup between these two teams is going to be a lot of fun. And I think if I'm going to put my Booker hat on, I think a matchup between La Rebellion and Hawk Ari is potential to be the best tag team match that we've ever seen in the NWA.
I agree. I agree with that. I think that it could possibly be the best match we've seen in the tag division, hands down. And I definitely think it's going to be better. Yeah, I like that too. Jay was hacked by DKM's impression. This is getting so good. No, I agree. I think that would be the better match for sure. 100%. It would be could be match of the year for the NWA. It could upstage what's been the best match so far in a while, which was the women's tag match. Which are the women's tag teams still around?
Well, they're supposed to be defending October 24th.
All this talk is October 24th. Is that a pay-per-view?
My understanding is it's going to be taped and aired later.
Okay.
It's being taped for a fight. Team Hex will be defending the women's titles against Tootie Lynn Ramsey and Kylie Ray, another makeshift tag team. Also on that card, we have been told that Kenzie Page will be challenging Camille. So we'll get Camille Kenzie 2 for the Women's World Championship. The other matches that have been announced, as we mentioned earlier, was Judeus putting up his national title, number one contendership against Sal Renaro. Then we also have Crimson, Jack Stain in the cage. And, of course, the match that Kevin's looking forward to, Colby Carino and the Pope.
I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm going to buy that. I mean, actually, Jackson and Crimson are the only things selling this pay-per-view for me. That's it. It's like an old WCW pay-per-view where you had like one match that you wanted to see. The rest of it, you're like, oh god, this could be really ugly. Anyway,
You know what I
guys,
want
are
to
we ready to
know?
land this? Oh, go ahead.
What I want to know is they did this angle, what seems like a million years ago now, with Genocide getting a win over Allison Kay so that her and whoever Genocide's tag team partner is, it's been so long I don't remember anymore, would get a shot at the tag titles.
Paola,
And like,
what's her face?
and
Paola
that's
Blaze.
like hasn't been mentioned, I think, since that happened. So instead Allison Kay went after Lady Frost.
Lady Frost.
So
Yep.
I mean,
I think that match will happen.
good booking, NWA. Let's get that team out there to challenge, and let's totally forget about it, never mention it again, and put your tag team champions in some makeshift thing. I suppose the idea is they're saving that match for their pay-per-view, but I don't know that it was necessarily a match I wanted to see, and I can't even remember the tag team partners. So
It's Powell and
obviously
Mayfield.
you're not doing anything to really build it, are you?
It's Powell and Mayfield, and I think they're saving that match for the EMPOWERRR TV show.
That's even
I think
worse.
it's time. It's time to land this plane, guys.
Oh, it's going down, baby. It's been going down.
It's burning.
DK, how can they follow you on social media?
At DKMFWTX on Twitter.
Mr. Kevin?
Kevin Lee, Lee Frazier. You can find me on that handle on Instagram and Twitter, and you can check out some of my wrestling matches if you're interested at Kevin Douglas 247 on YouTube.
Do want to thank you guys for joining us. I do apologize for the tech issues. Please check out alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the United Wrestling Network and for the National Wrestling Alliance. We do appreciate you guys giving us your support. Although this has been a pretty rough episode, if you would like to follow us on YouTube or Twitch, we would appreciate that as well. You could also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff at the Alliance blog. We have a merch link in the description. Please check that out. And until next time, ladies, gentlemen, thank you for enduring such a rough night. We'll see you at the matches. You guys should have left already.
Should have, but...
All right. Bye.